is, isn't he? Hey. And welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. John Phillips here in the cozy confines of my game room. It's nice to be able to talk sports with you wherever you might be. We're going to let a few people jump on here and get to the stream, and we'll have an hour for you tonight that hopefully you'll enjoy. A couple of guests. We'll talk about them more here in a moment. But it was certainly a bitter cold day today here in the region as people are bracing for, I guess, a monster ice storm and snowstorm that's going to be south of us. It's, I talk a lot about my time that I spent down south living in Charleston, South Carolina for 4+ years. And they're going to get hit with some pretty bitter cold. We got snow last year, actually. During my time down there, there was no snow. It got, a little chilly. Got some ice on the windshield a few times in, January, February. But generally speaking, it was, temperatures were nice. The water down at the beach was good and all of that. But they're going to get hit with a lot of snow and ice down in the, kind of like the breadbasket of America, coming through the, Appalachia and, the northern part of like Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia, places that generally don't get cold weather. But an interesting day today kind of unfolding. We're going to talk about the Steelers, of course, and their continued search for a head football coach, and Brian Flores conducted his in-person interview this afternoon. The Steelers on social media letting everybody know that he had come through the building and spent time, of course, with the Rooney family. He, of course, was employed by the Steelers for a year, just a few seasons ago, and was working as a special assistant. And then, of course, was the defensive coordinator in Minnesota last year. Still holds that position, but he's certainly interviewing as there are 6 openings still in the National Football League. We'll talk about an opening that was filled a little bit later on. John Harbaugh had his introductory news conference today. We'll bring you a little bit of sound from that late in the show. We do want to start off by talking about the Steelers and the process that they're going through, coaches that you want to see come through for second interviews. If you have comments, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, if you're watching us on X or on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, you're welcome to leave a comment in the section, and we'll be happy to get to your comments and answer some questions. At 7:20 p.m. this evening, Ray Fittipaldo is going to stop by, a longtime Steelers beat writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Ray is a super guy. He's been covering the Steelers for a long time. He and Jerry Dulac are still on the beat there until May. Unfortunately, that newspaper is going to cease operations on May 3rd. If you didn't hear the news a few weeks ago, hopefully somebody will come in there and save that newspaper, our newspaper of record for over 200 years here in the Pittsburgh area, and they're just closing shop. But Ray's still working hard, and he's going to join us kindly. Didn't want to bother him much this year with the beat. We were fortunate enough to have, obviously, Paul Zeiss all season long to join us. But, Ray's capacities in game day are are extensive, and he's a pretty busy guy. And, I talked with him last week. He thought this week would be a good time for him to get on with me for a few minutes. I'm excited to be able to talk with him. So we'll have Ray Fittipaldo at 7:20 this evening, and that'll be nice. And then, obviously there's a lot of NFL news taking place right now. As I mentioned earlier, there are 6 teams in the National Football League that are still trying to hire a head coach. Well, one came about yesterday. Sean McDermott was let go. Right, the Buffalo Bills released Sean McDermott. Not a complete surprise, but over the last 24 hours, a lot of news surrounding how that possibly went down, a potential feud within the organization. McDermott, look, for what it's worth, he was consistently bringing, victories to the forefront. The Bills have kind of dominated the AFC East over the last 5-6 seasons, certainly with, the retirement of Tom Brady. And of course, he went to Tampa Bay for a couple years, and the resurgence of, Josh Allen at quarterback, and the play that the Bills had. They had some success, 2 AFC championship appearances, 2 AFC championship game appearances, getting routinely into the divisional round. They did have a wild card loss in there, 1 or 2, but they won playoff games, but apparently it wasn't enough. Well, apparently he and the GM, Brandon Beane, did not get along. And so there's been some news over the last 12 hours, really over the course of the last, 12 hours today, that has kind of started circulating online a little bit last night. But really, it was interesting to read some of this stuff that was taking place. And so we asked that we get some perspective from Nick Sabato, who covers the Buffalo Bills for the Niagara Gazette. Nick was part of our pregame show earlier this year when the Bills came to town. Nick's going to join us around 7:35 p.m. this evening for about 10 minutes to talk about the saga that's taking place up in Buffalo. Meanwhile, if you have a comment or something you want to talk about, you're welcome to leave us some sort of comment in the chat section. We'll be happy to address that for you as we move along. So we've got about 12 or 13 minutes before Ray Fittipaldo joins us. So might as well just kind of just get into it here. I've said all along that Brian Flores is, my personal choice. Would love to see him come in here as head coach. Look, there are several candidates, I think, that are, at the top of the list right now. Some people are saying, Mike McCarthy's coming in tomorrow, and he has been pushing real hard. He actually turned down an interview somewhere else. I can't remember if it was Tennessee or not, but he's been focused on trying to get a head coaching job. Of course, he's still making money off of his contract from Dallas when he was let go just 2 seasons ago. So, there's all of that to deal with in terms of who the Steelers are going to, possibly bring in here. They can't really talk to anybody with the Rams right now because they're moving on to the NFC Championship game. So they can't do any formal in-person interviews. I know, the Shula kid and the Schliehaus, who's not a coordinator, but he's part of their offensive setup. There's a couple candidates there that the Steelers might be interested in. Obviously, there's been talk that things are going to escalate quickly once McCarthy gets in here tomorrow. It could be a 2-horse race, perhaps, at this point in time. I really don't want to see the Steelers move quickly on all of this. I would really like them to take their time, but they'll do it the way they want to. And if they feel like they've got somebody that should be their head coach, they'll probably make a move. And again, I talked a little bit about this last night. I don't care what anybody says right now. It is the position right now, that in Baltimore, right? I think of the 6 openings right now, right? You've got Buffalo, you've got Baltimore, you've got Cleveland, you've got Las Vegas and Arizona, and of course Pittsburgh. right? And I see some of your comments. Thank you very much. I guess we're getting a few of them in here. Brad Makala checking in. Is Freeman definitely out? I don't know. I will ask Ray Fittipaldo that. Brad, good question. Thank you very much. Steelers Art is watching us on YouTube tonight. I am not a Flores or McCarthy fan. I'd like to see Shula from the Rams. There are certainly people that are interested in him as a young coordinator type that could come in here, defensive guy, right? And so, the process will play out. But I think we're only at Tuesday, right? You had the interview that was conducted today in person with Brian Flores. You're going to have Mike McCarthy tomorrow. We'll see if there's any surprises that pop up through the latter portion of the week. I think things will die down over the weekend, but who knows? Who knows? I'd love to see the Steelers bring in 6, 7, 8 people, to be quite honest with you. Again, something to ask Ray when he gets on here in the next 10 minutes or so, but I just don't want to see the Steelers rush through anything, right? They've had a week now. It's been a week since the announcement, and they have gone through their initial interviews, and now they're starting to bring people in for second interviews. And one would likely think that if you do circle in on somebody who you feel like is the right person, you're probably going to make a move to get that done, right? Miami took a little less than 2 weeks to clear up their head coaching position. We obviously saw last night that Robert Saleh is going to get another crack at things with a subpar 500 record. He was in New York with the Jets, and that organization is obviously flawed in many ways. But Saleh has taken over in Tennessee. They're getting a new stadium. They've got Cam Ward. They've got a rabid fan base that's fairly loyal. There's some sort of stability down there potentially with a potential franchise quarterback. And obviously the Buffalo position is unique, and as is Baltimore, because you have quarterbacks that have won MVPs. I still think the Steelers position, despite the mess that they are right now, right? You've got an aged defensive unit that is expensive and did not perform very well this year, especially against the run when they didn't have Derek Harmon. The secondary was tested quite a bit and had struggled at times. You've got no quarterback to speak of right now, right? If Mike McCarthy's coming in here and he's pushing hard, you can pretty much rest assured that Aaron Rodgers is not coming back because Rodgers and he did not get along. So there's that element. If you're on the bandwagon of bringing Rodgers back to get somebody prepared to be a quarterback in this league, training versus making another run at it with an aging guy who is just probably. That was probably, just pushed out. So we'll see how this all plays out over the next week or so. I think, as I had said, a decision will be made by next Friday. I think of that week before the Steelers go into Super Bowl week. I think they'll probably have this figured out by then. A 2-week time frame on this is ideal. 2.5 weeks, I think, would be ideal to find the right candidate. Maybe you think differently. You're welcome to leave a comment as we are moving along here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. I mentioned that we had John Harbaugh had a press conference today. He obviously has taken the position as head coach in New York. He kicked off the coaching vacancies by announcing that he was going to become their next head coach. Of course, Jackson Dart, rookie season, was some hits, some misses, but definitely you have some upside there. Harbaugh will, like I said, later on the show, we'll bring you a few comments from him at his press conference from this afternoon to hear from him. Apparently he had some comments afterwards about Mike Tomlin. We'll try to track some of those down for you as well. Just a little programming schedule. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we have, of course, other shows here on the network, and we will get to 3 nights a week week, probably next week. I think that that's the plan right now, is for us to get to Wednesdays at 7 o'clock as we might make our move to doing 4 nights a week at 7 p.m. The Pittsburgh Sports Desk, Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. That's our friend Bill Akins, who, of course, produced our Steel City Sunday show all season long and was alongside of me. You've got a great show there on Wednesday evenings at 8 o'clock that you can check out. That's local. And, of course, on Thursdays, Bill also hosts a show called Gridiron Weekly. So we are adding more programming to our channels, both on YouTube, X, and on Facebook. Hopefully you can check some of that stuff out. Gridiron Weekly is Thursday nights at 8 p.m., hosted by Bill Akins. And, of course, all of this is on the It's a Wrap Sports Network, which is Pennsylvania sports, a lot of Philadelphia sports. I talked about Matty B. They built us a new intro today that I was unaware of, and we played that this evening. They do great work for us. They get us on the air. They make sure that we look professional and clean, and I can't thank them enough for that. But these are just some of the shows that you can see on It's a Wrap Sports. You can go check them out on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. And, of course, every night, Sunday night through Thursday night at 9 o'clock, Matty B., who runs the network, has his Final Word show every night at 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. So please make sure you check out that stuff. Especially, we have a little group chat, and obviously last week the Penguins kind of force-fed Philadelphia the Flyers once again. And that was quite enjoyable to send some of those messages over to those folks, just to kind of remind them that Sidney Crosby he just owns that franchise, does he not? Of course, the Penguins are on a 4-game road trip. They won yesterday in Seattle 6-3. They have kind of had a bit of a resurgence since, they had a hot start, and then they had that kind of dip in November, December, and now January. They've come out the gate, and they've looked good so far. I believe they have now 6 wins in the new year, as the push to the playoffs is going to be starting here real soon, right? As we get into February, mid-February, it's that 2-month push to get yourself situated into a playoff position where you're going to make the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think the Penguins have missed it now it's either 3 or 4 years. So they've it's been a few years since they've made the postseason. We'll talk more hockey once the football season's over. We'll get into the Penguins, and we'll hopefully have some Penguins people on. I have a guest lined up for next week that's Penguins related. I haven't quite confirmed it just yet, but he did commit to it the other day, but I have not heard from him regarding actually getting him on the show. I want to do as many unique guests as I can, right? It's great having people like Ray Fittipaldo and Nick Sabato, and you've got professional writers that'll come on and do a show that has a very small audience. We're just getting started with this, and it's nice. A week ago tonight we had 1,200 people watching us. Of course, as Mike Tomlin had announced that he was stepping down, a lot less this evening, but nonetheless, if you are watching us this evening, those of you that are on, and our X channel has been very good to us. Our YouTube channel is growing. Thanks for stopping by, folks. You're welcome to comment if you are watching us on X or on Facebook or on YouTube. Mean Green checking in. Are you ready for the Steelers to acquire a head coach? I do, if it's in the right time frame. Right, it's got to be the right time frame, and they've got to really believe they've found the right person. Mean Green, right? There's no need to rush through any of this, and I think that the Steelers are committed to that. I really do. I think that they probably want to bring in Chris Shula. They probably want to bring in maybe Clint Kubiak or somebody else that is available. Maybe there are a few other candidates that are coaching right now. There's only 4 teams left. There might be some sleepers out there, but the first round interviews have been conducted for the most part. It looks like the Steelers are moving into the second phase of things, and so Flores today, tomorrow it's Mike McCarthy. We'll be interested to see if there's any others that Ray knows about that are, potentially coming in here. I saw a quick comment from Najee Harris. apparently when he was meeting with Mike Tomlin late last year, head of free agency, Tomlin told him not to come back, which I thought that was a bad move. I really thought that the Steelers would have benefited from having Najee Harris this year. Of course, he signs with the Chargers and then suffers the Achilles injury. It was either at the end of the preseason or at the beginning of the regular season. And of course, he was done for the year. I thought that was an interesting comment from him. All right, let's get this man on because I know he's a busy guy. And I am very grateful that Ray Fittipaldo, longtime Steelers writer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, is popping on here. I believe, boy, I tell you what, Ray, technology today, I struggle with it, buddy. I just, I'm producing these shows now myself. I don't have anybody pushing the buttons. I press a button. You might show up. You may not. Ray, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, John. How are you?
I don't know why I put myself through this for an hour a night, but I'm having a blast with it. I appreciate you coming on board to give me 10 minutes. I know you're a busy guy. So we're a week into the search now. Brian Flores was in. The Steelers conducted an in-person interview. How do you think the team has handled things so far a week into their looking for their 17th head coach?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was taking a look at it today. They've interviewed. They only brought in one so far, but they've done virtual interviews with 9. Now, the Baltimore Ravens have done virtual interviews with 16. And, of course, in first today for the Steelers was Brian Flores. Mike McCarthy comes in tomorrow. And I believe Anthony Weaver, former DC for the Dolphins, is in Thursday or Friday. So they are getting busy with their in-person interviews. They are going to have to wait to interview the 2 Rams assistants. Those guys cannot interview until Monday per NFL rules. So, you see it, John. These jobs are coming off the board pretty quickly. 10 openings, 4 have been filled already. So yeah. I think within the next, 7 to 10 days, I think definitely before Super Bowl week, because they're not allowed to do anything during Super Bowl week. The Steelers will have a new head coach. So it's not imminent, but we are coming up. I think sometime within the next 7 or 10 days, we will know who that 17th head coach in franchise history will be.
I agree with you. I think by next Friday, we'll probably have somebody that they'll announce. I think you're absolutely right. The timing of it, obviously with what happened in Buffalo yesterday, not completely surprised. It's been an interesting story today to see how things have kind of unfolded. Not a very popular decision, certainly amongst the Bills players, but that's a topic for another day. As this process moves along, anybody out there that's a sleeper at this point? I know there was a lot of chatter today about, or some chatter today about how, this is Brian Flores' job. Now Mike McCarthy's camp has really been pushing hard. He turned down an interview with, I think it was Tennessee, to really focus on this Steelers position. Any sleepers out there, or is this a 2 or 3 man race between these 2 guys and maybe say one of the assistants, the Shula kid from maybe the Rams perhaps?
Yeah, well, you know how it works with coaching searches, John. Mike McCarthy took his name out of consideration for that Tennessee job because they were hiring Robert Saleh imminently. And that, of course, happened, I think, either late last night or this morning. But he's got an agent. He's going to get the word out there and, make it look as good as he can as possible. I do think he's a somewhat serious candidate for the Steelers now. I'm not going to poo-poo that. He has a long relationship with Omar Khan. They have known each other for 25 years. They worked together in New Orleans with the Saints way back when Mike was the OC there. So there is a long history there between those 2 guys. And you can't ignore he's from Pittsburgh. He's from Greenfield, like 5 minutes away from their South Side facility. So there's that connection as well. So there are going to be other guys. If I wouldn't put him in the underdog category. If you're looking for an underdog, you would probably have to go with Nate Scheelhaase from the Rams. He doesn't have any play calling experience in the NFL, but he's a hot name in the search. The Browns have interviewed him. The Ravens have interviewed him. I think he was on the docket for a few other teams as well, maybe a couple of these other teams that already made hires. So he's a hot name. I think he's 34, 35 years old. He would fit that mold for the Steelers. And you mentioned Shula. He's another one, probably a little bit more of a serious candidate because he does have play calling experience as a DC. And a lot of people have floated the idea of Shula as the head coach, Shieldhouse as the OC. He gets his play calling experience, and then maybe he's a more viable candidate next year, if the Steelers offense does well. So I'm just throwing a bunch of different scenarios at you, John, a lot of speculation at this point. That's really all this is. And I always go back to what Art Rooney said last week at his news conference. He didn't think when Mike Tomlin was in for his first interview way back in 2007 that he was going to be the guy. But Mike impressed them so much throughout the interview process that he eventually became that guy. And he beat out Russ Grimm, and he beat out Ken Wisenhunt. So I don't know that there's a front runner right now. I don't know if there's an underdog, but there are some nice names out there for the Steelers to consider here over the next week or so.
We're pleased to be joined by Ray Fittipaldo, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, longtime beat writer covering the Steelers over there at that newspaper. I saw that Danny Smith got hired today. Art Smith is out there interviewing for coordinator positions. Do you expect any of this staff to stick around for the new head coach? I think probably no, but I'm curious. I'm curious what you have to say.
Yeah, they were all told they could seek employment elsewhere. So usually when that happens, they're going to scoop up the jobs when they become available. Now, if some of those guys have relationships with the new coach, then of course, they might be able to come back. But as of right now, I think if you're an assistant coach and you don't have a job in 2026, you're going to try to land on your feet as soon as possible. So I know Danny was the first domino to fall, but there are some other good coaches who are on Mike Tomlin's staff, and I think they'll be scooped up here within the next week or so.
I'm curious as to how you feel about McCarthy coming in here, and if he is, let's just say he lands the job somehow. Right? Mm-hmm. There's no way Aaron Rodgers is coming back here, correct? I mean, that pretty much puts that because they didn't have a great relationship at the end when McCarthy eventually was, ousted over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were together a long time, and I do remember there was a little bit of friction there at the end. Obviously, Mike lost his job, and I know there was a story written about the how things unfolded there. But just talking to Aaron over the last year or so, I get the idea that his relationship with Mike now is fine. So if there is any scenario at all where Aaron Rodgers comes back, I think the only one is with Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy, he's going to sit back and he's going to look at the quarterback room, and he's not going to pick Mason Rudolph or Will Howard. The guy wants to win. The guy's 62 years old. He's not going to want to experiment with QBs that he doesn't know. So, I thought Aaron had a good year this year. He's not the athlete that he used to be. He's strictly a statue back there now, but John, he's still great at the line of scrimmage. He can still read a defense. And, they won 10 games this year in a tough division. So I think there's something to be said for that.
There is something to be said for that. And initially I thought, yeah, let's run it back with A-Rod 8. I think like everybody was convinced, that, if obviously Mike stepping down was a bit of a shock, but for those of us that were, that talk about this team, you especially covering them for a long time, we expected Mike to come back, and therefore, hey, if he's coming back, then let's bring Aaron in for one more run and see how it goes. Maybe they try to develop Will Howard. Maybe they try to make a move in the draft with some extra picks that they have. all these questions now out the window, and it's a completely different scenario now as they are looking for a head coach. One or two more questions with Ray Fittipaldo before we let him go. Draft-wise, right now, you bring in a new guy, new perspective. Most of the staff probably turns over. If it's a defensive-minded coach, given the fact that this roster that they have of players, a lot of money, right? Somebody was talking about, they should package up TJ Watt. How are you going to trade a guy who's on the backside of 30 with 40+ million a year, right? Yeah. Who's going to take a player of that nature? The majority of these guys, I'm not saying all of them they're stuck with, but I guess it's going to be based on the coach, defensively or offensively. Would you say that's how they try to maybe make a move in that first round to try to help get them kick-started in this new regime?
Yeah, I don't know that TJ Watt would fetch a first-round pick. He's going to turn 32 in October, not coming off a great year. I think you could probably get a second-round pick for him. But, John, all it takes is one. It takes one team, and I'm thinking of the team up north, Buffalo, desperate for a playoff win. They went out and got Joey Bosa this year. I don't think Joey Bosa
did.
I don't think he was great this year. So they might say, hey, we're going to go get TJ Watt, see what TJ Watt can do. And maybe TJ Watt is the guy who gets them over the top. I'm just spitballing here, but
right.
I've learned that over the years, it only takes one team to overpay for someone or for something. And Buffalo might not be the only team that would be interested. There's a misnomer out there, a misconception, I should say, that his contract isn't tradable. It's not a typical Omar contract. He's got a $30 million base salary next season. So whoever trades for him is trading for that salary. And then there's just I think it would be like a $10 million cap hit they would have to eat if they traded him after the first year. So it's very doable. I don't know if the Steelers have the appetite to do it. They don't typically do that with their star players. But TJ is one guy. I mean, you got to think about Cam Hayward. Now, Cam wouldn't be a trade. He would be a cut. He has no guaranteed money in that contract. So that's one they could easily move on from. And I think he's on the books for like $17 million a year in salary. He's got a roster bonus of, I think, $13 million. So, I mean, they're in great shape with the cap, John. I think they're like 47 million with the cap. They could easily get to 60 or 65 million. So they might not get their quarterback this year, but they could build up a pretty good roster, I think, through free agency if that's the route that Omar wants to go.
You're an insightful man, sir. I'll tell you, an encyclopedia of Steelers knowledge. Ray Fittipaldo, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Thank you for giving me some time, Ray. I'm very much appreciative of you, okay?
John, anytime. Let's do it again.
And don't tell me you don't miss my text messages from South Carolina when I was living down south. You poor man had to put up with but I appreciate you always getting back to me, Ray. You're a good guy. Thank you so much.
Always entertaining. All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Ray Fittipaldo. Yeah, I'm telling you, there'd be like a Sunday night game or a Thursday night game, right? And I'm frustrated. That text Ray during the middle of the game. Be like 6 hours later. Maybe sometimes if it was halftime, he might get back to me. Super guy. I mean, you work in the media business a long time. You run into all kinds of personalities, and some of them are not so nice. Ray is one of the good ones. He always has been a very even-keeled, level-headed, and just cerebral guy. If I had to use one word to describe Ray, it would be cerebral. But he went to Holy Cross, so there you go. All right, Pittsburgh Sports Tonight rolling on. John Phillips. We're waiting on Nick Sabato to join us in a few minutes. I want to talk about some other NFL stuff. I think it's important. This league, we're obviously interested in Pittsburgh-related stuff that pertains to the black and gold. But the league's popularity, and let's just face it, people follow other teams, and that we should be interested in what's going on in Buffalo. We should be interested in what's going on in Cleveland and Baltimore. Right? Who thought Zach Taylor would be standing tall of all the coaches? I thought, he was certainly going to be losing his job, right? But, Kevin Stefanski out, right? Harbaugh out, Mike Tomlin out by choice. So yeah, paying attention to what's going on in some of these other teams is fairly relevant, and I think it's good to be able to bring some other people on to provide some perspective. And again, as I've been watching like Buffalo Twitter today, the real craziness about how Sean McDermott apparently went to ownership and complained about the lack of uh, attention to detail when it came to maybe providing a better wide receiver core was quite interesting. And then apparently Brandon Beane and he got into a bit of a power struggle, and Beane wins. And not only does he win, and yeah, he drafted Josh Allen, but and yeah, he made Stephon Diggs happen. But outside of that, it's been thin. It's been thin for Buffalo, and they didn't provide any real talent at wide receiver this year for Josh Allen at the end of the day. And then that's on the GM. That's on the GM. Sean McDermott, for what it's worth, I thought was a pretty good head coach, consistently winning, but it looks like he may have succumbed to some sort of power struggle in Buffalo. And that has led to him possibly being frozen out in these coaching searches, right? The Raiders have taken their time. Arizona's taking their time. Baltimore and Cleveland are taking their time. They've had probably the most time of the remaining teams, right? The Steelers last week, an opening. Yesterday for Buffalo, an opening. McDermott could be frozen out. Maybe Cleveland, maybe an Arizona or a Las Vegas, right? I think they have the number one pick. Maybe McDermott could be on the outside. Sean McDermott coaching the Steelers. Look, bring him in. I don't have a problem with that, right? And as Ray and I talked, he mentioned Team A, the Steelers virtual interviews with 9. I think he had said that Baltimore has had 16. So maybe the Steelers feel like that their candidate pool smaller is okay. And I wanted to ask Ray about the coaching. The other thing I failed to mention to him was the fact that this team ownership, and this is I think going to be important with the new guys that are coming in. The staff is the smallest in the National Football League here in Pittsburgh, and that's the Rooneys. They've been tight with the purse strings. Meanwhile, they have like the 14th most valuable franchise in the National Football League, 13th or 14th, and they're in the top 20 in North America, right? They're worth $6.5 billion according to Forbes as a franchise value. The Steelers, I think, if I'm a head coach candidate, I'm asking the Rooneys what their commitment is to money in terms of expanding a coaching staff, in terms of what you're paying for. There are teams out there that have these. I want to see if I can bring this up here. I meant to ask this of Ray, and that's my fault. Shame on me for 6 weeks. But there are teams out there in the league that have coaches on their staff that are responsible for just really a smaller portion or a subsect of what a coordinator might have normally been in charge of, right? You've got coaches that are on these staffs now that their responsibility is to deal with the running backs or deal with receivers. It's fascinating how the league has evolved. Obviously, you have these analytics teams that are doing the analytics side of things, crunching real data, and that element of the game has really expanded in the past 10 years. Having a staff of people that can break down that information and do it for you in a quick way, so that you can turn around and devise plays while you're within a game. It's not just having a lineman coach, a quarterback coach, defensive backs coach. There's staff underneath that staff, and the Steelers don't really have that. The Tomlin had to do a lot less or a lot more with less as opposed to other teams in the league. I think those are some things that you would probably consider if you're a head coach. Hey, what are you going to provide me in terms of financial support to bring a staff in here? And I'm desperately searching for this, and I don't know if I'm going to find it here as we are waiting for Nick Sabato to hopefully join us here in the next few minutes. We'll talk to him about what's going on in Buffalo. I'm John Phillips. Pleased that you could join us here on a Tuesday evening. It's Pittsburgh Sports Tonight as we are wrapping up our week here. Again, we start 3 weeks. We start 3 nights a week next week. We'll be doing shows on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. Possibly 4 shows the week of the Super Bowl. We'll see how things play out. I want to continue to keep booking guests and providing as much as I can in terms of content. Let's just face it, folks, you're not here just for me, right? We want to make sure that we provide good guests that have the insight, that are willing to come on and share with us. These are things that I think are very important when doing shows of this nature. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about the Bills here in a few minutes. Let's give you a taste as Mean Green checking in via the YouTube chat. The Steelers can't rush this decision. Their future is at stake. I agree. There's no reason to push this to happen in something that is other than organic, right? I do agree with Ray. I think next week you want to see something happen by next Friday, next Saturday, because once Super Bowl week happens, nothing's happening. There's no interviews. There's nothing going on, right? That's something that I think is very relevant to bring on. Let's get a couple of minutes of John Harbaugh's press conference from earlier today. The former head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, now the new head coach of the new New York Giants. Let's bring you some of that here. Just a few questions that he had today from the media in New York.
Oh my! Remember that game, right? It's a great game for you. And so it starts with the quarterback for sure. I mean, the quarterback has got to. You build your team around your quarterback. I mean, you build your team around your players and what they do well. And I like the way he plays. I mean, I like his talent, skill set, all the things he's accomplished. But more than that, I like who he is and what he's about. And to me, he's about football. I mean, this young guy loves football. He wants to talk football all the time, and that's kind of what I like doing too. So I think we're gonna have a lot of great conversations. I can't wait to get started with him.
John, Mike Garofalo, NFL Network. Through the process, you had a chance to spend a lot of time and talk to Joe Shane a lot, the guy who just introduced you here. What was it about your interactions with him that led you to believe there's going to be great collaboration and cooperation here?
No question, Mike. Probably the conversations themselves is what led me to believe there would be great collaboration. I mean, obviously you get to know Joe and we start talking ball and you see he's a football man. This is a guy that this guy lives and breathes football. His knowledge is deep. He knows the league. He knows the coaches in the league. He knows the players in the league. Probably knows all the scouts in the league too, I'll bet, he was impressive to me. And it was just really a joy to talk football and really dig into some of the plans that we might have going forward, see what we can build here. So I was impressed, very impressed.
Okay. A little bit of John Harbaugh from earlier today, his press conference, and look, they made a good hire. Let's just say that they made a good hire. I'll tell you who is on top of things in Buffalo. It's Nick Sabato. He covers the Buffalo Bills for the Niagara Gazette. He was on our pregame show earlier this year. He has been kind enough to give us a few minutes of his time to talk a little bit about what's going on up in Western New York. Good evening, Nick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. I'm doing fine. So, a little bit of a not completely surprised yesterday. I mean, I think there was certainly talk that if the Buffalo Bills were not going to make the run this year, no Lamar Jackson, right? Obviously, knocked out of the playoffs. No Patrick Mahomes to kind of get in the way. I think the message was probably fairly clear: get to the Super Bowl. Or possibly lose your job. And of course, yesterday, Sean McDermott loses his job. But today, things are starting to kind of clear here. And, you cover the team. You may have known about this ahead of time, perhaps, but it looks like he and GM Brandon Beane were not really seeing eye to eye. I'm kind of curious. Can you talk about the last 24 hours and what your perspective is regarding McDermott being removed as head coach and this growing tension, that potentially the head coach and GM had amongst one another?
Yeah, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott reported to owner Terry Pagula separately, so there's no chain of hierarchy, and at some point that was going to implode no matter how well those guys got along. It just wasn't sustainable, and frankly, it's if you think about it, it's pretty incredible that it lasted 9 years. I think that there's been a bit of disconnect, in terms of how they view certain things. I know that McDermott had influence over the roster. He decided how he wanted to play and the type of players that he wanted, and Brandon Beane's job was to go out and get those players. And then I think Brandon Beane was kind of catching some strays in terms of how they set the roster and how they wanted to play. Not that he's not at fault. I mean, his reputation, his personality has kind of taken a hit over the last 10 months or so, 9 months. Just he went on a local radio show and didn't have the greatest of performances and got upset about the narrative that they don't have any receivers or that he didn't do more to get receivers. I think he could have let that roll off his back and just moved on, and he didn't, and they weren't very good at receiver, and he's taken a hit for it, and he's kind of taken a hit for everything that's gone down the last couple of days as well.
Seems like the players are definitely on Sean's side. I saw a few Instagram posts earlier today. A couple things were circulated on X as well. Was this the right decision by Buffalo? I mean, clearly there was this struggle of some kind. Could they have coexisted for another year? Do you agree with the decision to remove him as head coach?
I would assume that it had gotten pretty bad if they were going to make this move. I mean, Sean McDermott was on a historic run. I mean, when you look at some of the things that he's been able to accomplish, the tied for the fewest losses in the NFL since 2019. Second wins, obviously they had that game in 2022 that didn't count. So, 5 consecutive division championships. I believe McDermott is one of 5 coaches to win 11 games in 6 consecutive seasons in NFL history. It's been quite a run. I think they're the 4th franchise that's won a playoff game in 6 consecutive years. The only problem is the other 3 won 3 Super Bowls in that period of time. And I mean, like, if we're being honest, if Sean McDermott had won a Super Bowl at once in the last 9 years, we'd be talking about him as a lock for the Hall of Fame already, but that's not how it happened. And I mean, he's a player's coach. He can be a little straight edge. He can be a little rigid sometimes, a little stiff in front of a camera. But the players loved him. they lost 33 games since 2019. 5 were by double digits. I mean, those guys played for him. And so, when the coach gets fired, the players are always going to kind of side with the coach. That's the guy they're around every day and, kind of responsible for their job. So that part wasn't surprising. But to me, the relationship had to get pretty bad if they were going to make a move like this. And for Terry Pegula to completely restructure the front office.
We've got Nick Sabato on the horn with us this evening. He covers the Bills for the Niagara Gazette and the Lockport Union Sun and Journal. Solid reporting, and if you want to check out his work, you can go to X and check him out. Nick Sabato, GNN is his handle over there. Is Sean going to be frozen out of a head coaching opportunity? There are 6 available. How quickly do you think his phone rang yesterday, or his agent's phone rang yesterday, with some of these other teams like Cleveland, Arizona, Vegas, teams that are, that lose consistently and there's upheaval every couple of years? Is there opportunity for him at one of those organizations? Perhaps. I think, Pittsburgh is a week in. They may be settled in. I'm not sure where Baltimore is. I'm curious as to how you feel about him maybe coaching next year somewhere.
I think he instantly jumps to the top of the list of available coaches. The Steelers seem to be kind of honing in on Mike McCarthy. But I think if he had gotten fired, Friday, Pittsburgh would seem like the ideal fit for him. I think if he waits a year, he might have his pick of a bunch of jobs. Whenever he's ready to coach again, I don't think he's going to have a hard time finding a head coaching job.
Fair enough. Nick, I appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your time this evening. You're very kind. You do great work. Nick Sabato from the Niagara Gazette, who covers the Buffalo Bills, giving us his perspective on what's taking place in Western New York. Have a beef on Weck for me, sir. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick Sabato, gracious with his time, and little Western New York joke there in terms of food, because I'm a fat guy and I like to eat, and I know what regional foods are popular everywhere. Okay, I travel for a living. What can I say? At 56, I've unfortunately had plenty of cuisine across the country, and I haven't been up. Well, I was actually in Buffalo probably back in February last year. I was up in Western New York for some business up that way, so didn't get a beef on Weck, but I ended up going to Rochester and hit Nick Tahoe's for a garbage plate. Hadn't had one of those in a long, long time. All right, just a couple more minutes here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight before we wrap up. Just a couple quick reminders. We are brought to you in part by, and I say this all the time. Look, I've been in the construction business for more than a decade now, and I work with contractors, big contractors across the country. But one of the contractors that I have been with for more than a decade now is Arch Masonry and Restoration, a local company. Arch Masonry and Restoration hires bricklayers, block layers, concrete finishers. It's a little cold right now. Not going to sit here and say that they're working every single day, but when you can tent in a job or 2 or 3, you do have the opportunity to lay brick and block, and Arch is able to do that sort of thing. If you know anybody that is in a building trade like concrete or masonry, if they're a construction laborer and they're not working and they want to get to work, have them give Arch a call, 412-564-5733, or visit their website at archmasonryinc.com. They are a sponsor here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. Okay, how about that? See, I continue to just crank it out, folks. I'm doing the best I can here. I should have listened to Andrew Filipponi 12 years ago. I could have a whole bunch of you on here right now. But the 30 of you that are hanging out right now, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for checking in. I want to say thank you for finding a few minutes of your day to come in here and just hang out or comment. It means a great deal. And I'm going to continue to, like I said, just come in here 2-3 nights a week, at some point 4 nights a week, and put together good content and programming for an hour, and hope you will enjoy it. Hope you'll stick around. And again, like and subscribe if you have not been to our YouTube channel. I know a number of you are watching us on X right now, but if you have 10 seconds, if you're on YouTube watching shorts, and I don't know, I got to get that one. I thought I took that off there. See, I'm producing my own show. So that means I have to be better at making sure I know what's on the screen. If you are not following us on our YouTube channel, I swear, get over there and just give us a quick follow. We're putting more content and programming over there. I write exclusively on our Facebook page. I do try to put that out on X with a link. I am working on more commentary. I'll probably have another article later this week to talk about where the Steelers are at in the process of everything. I enjoy writing. I've enjoyed my time, writing for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review. For those of you that don't know, I do features for them. I write and cover the Riverhounds. I covered the Riverhounds this past year, and I'm coming back for another season, which is really nice. I'm excited to be able to cover them again as they make their push to become the 4th real major team in this city. They're going to build a brand new stadium starting this spring. It'll take 3 years. It's going to go in phases, but eventually by 2028, they're going to have a 16,000 seat stadium on the banks of the Monongahela. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm very, very happy for Tuffy Schallenberger and the franchise. I mean, to make the run that they did this year, I don't think it gets enough attention. Obviously they play in the 2nd division of soccer in North America in the USL. They are moving up to the USL Championship. The league itself is moving itself into the top division, not necessarily competing with MLS, but certainly providing an alternative to what MLS is going to do. They're going more towards the European format where they start in the fall, winter, play through winter time, and then into the spring, whereas USL is going to continue to go from March into November, and that formula with 14 to 16 teams building these stadiums. And look at MLS today. They have teams in Toronto, teams in Orlando, Miami, the Nashville franchise, Louisville, Cincinnati. They all started in USL. And I know I'm missing a few more in there. I think Montreal as well was one of the USL franchises that moved up to MLS. But that's a $500 million tag. That's a $500 million tag. I still think that the Riverhounds in 3 years will be in a good position. They'll be in a great position to be considered the 4th major pro sports team in Pittsburgh. All right. Thanks to everybody who participated in the show this evening and for hanging out. I appreciate it. The numbers at the end of the day are going to grow over time. I'm going to continue to keep booking the best guests I can. Next week, I hope to have Penguin X account, Pittsburgh Penguins Jesus on the show. He committed to doing a night. I just don't know when. He's a great follow on X. I am working on some other interviews. I'm hoping to have some of that ironed out by the end of the week. We'll make those announcements on X as to who we're going to have later next week. Thanks to Maddie B and, of course, the It's a Wrap Sports Network. Go check them out on all their social medias. It's a Wrap Sports. We are part of their family. A lot of Philadelphia-related programming. They do have a Props, Locks, and Parlay show, which I believe is later this week. I believe, let's see, that's with Mike Lauro, excuse me, and that's coming up in just a few minutes. So if you like to gamble, you might want to check that out. It's a Wrap Sports on X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Part of their family. We appreciate them getting us on the air and broadcasting our show. Okay, until next Monday, I'm John Phillips. Thank you for joining us here on Pittsburgh Sports Tonight. We'll be back again next Monday with an hour of talk. Until that time, stay warm and be good to one another, Pittsburgh. And for those of you watching elsewhere, because the internet is a global thing, is it not? I'm John Phillips. Thanks for tuning in this evening. This has been Pittsburgh Sports Tonight on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. And of course, I can't get to what I need to end the show. So we're just going to try and do this. Why is it doing this to me? You know, sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you want it to. Oh, here we go, I think. All right. Bye-bye.